Hey, John.
Wow, outside, very nice. That's
Yeah.
lovely.
Yep. How you doing?
I'm good. Were you running around with technicals?
Yeah, just yeah, it's all figured out though. Just getting my headset working.
Yeah, your whatever mic you're using is fantastic. You're very clear. It's beautiful.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's the built-in on my laptop or let's see.
Well, yeah, it's great.
Yeah, just the built-in Mac microphone.
Oh, beautiful. Now, if you're listening, I'm talking to Jeremy Lipkin in California. And just to give you a time context for our conversation, today is Wednesday, the 16th of March, 2022. Okay, so we've had lots of questions come in on social media, so we'll just get into them. Keisha Tabachuk on Patreon. Thanks for the tea, Keisha. Keisha is also a guest on the podcast, episode 172, if you're looking for it. And in response to my posting that you were going to be on the podcast, Jeremy, Keisha says, "No way! Finally!" with three exclamation marks. Thank you, John. Make this conversation last for many hours, please. You are the best, Jeremy. Really looking forward to it. What happened to your Instagram? So let's start there.
Well, yeah, really, I don't know what happened. It disappeared. But I'm pretty sure I got hacked, and it was something to do with that. But it just came back about 45 minutes ago.
Oh wow, that's the magic of this podcast, Jeremy.
So yeah,
I don't like to
yeah.
boast, but that's what it is. um, okay, so you didn't get a ransom sort of thing or anything like that.
No, I didn't. Yeah, no typical ransom note. Nobody was trying to sell it for Bitcoin. It
Wow.
just disappeared and was locked out of my Facebook. But I was getting charges from Facebook and just some weird
Wow,
activity going
that's
on. So
that's strange, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah, because people were going. In fact, there was a beginning of a campaign like
mhm.
Jeremy Lipking's Instagram account has been, banned because of nudity. Like the people who'd had their accounts banned by
Yeah,
nudity were like, "Oh my God, it's happened to Jeremy as well."
yeah,
But I don't think that's what was going on. Really, was it?
yeah. I don't know. I don't think so, but I'm not don't know for sure yet.
Wow. Well, that's great that it's
Mm.
back.
Yeah.
What a relief. How many followers do you have on Instagram?
There's 180,000.
180. Wow.
Yeah,
Just goes to show you, though, doesn't it? We sort of think we're doing great on Instagram, and it's so easy to forget that we don't actually own it
yeah,
and that it can be
yeah,
just taken away. Somebody else
yeah.
can just go, no.
Yep.
Okay, so for someone listening who hasn't seen your work, how would you describe your paintings, Jeremy?
Yeah. Yeah, never good at this one, but for a like a non-artist, I would just say it looks just like a picture. It just looks just like a photo. Um, yeah, I like to paint people in the landscape, mostly the Southwest landscape, and I guess it would be considered realism. Although to me
Yeah.
they don't look like pictures, but
In what way?
no, I mean I like showing the texture of the canvas and brush strokes. There's some areas where you can't really, the brush strokes are so small, you can't see them unless you get up close. But I still like to show the texture of the paint and the canvas.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, I saw somebody just talking about Richard Smith, and they were sort of saying, for people who paint things who look like things, you'll know who he is. I thought that
Yeah,
was a great description for realist painting. For people who paint things who look like things.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think doesn't David Gluck, I think, has a website that's painting stuff to look like stuff.com or something like that.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I hadn't heard it before. I thought it was great. Okay, so Sheila Horowitz on Patreon. Thanks for the tea. Sheila says, I am pleased about this. She's talking about our conversation. Lipking does the most wonderful figures in landscape and wonderful treatment of natural light. I was wondering who are his influences? Impressionists, naturalists, cinematographers. Thank you, Mr. Lipking, in advance. And thank you, John, for these wonderful podcasts that truly are a public service. Thanks, Sheila. So, yeah, influences.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of them. I do like photographers and cinematographers. I probably couldn't name any, but I mean, I'll go with painters. You know, I like Sargent and Richard Schmid, Repin, um, Soroya and Zorn,
Yeah.
some of the big ones. Yeah.
All right. Aaron Sidorenko in Canada says, "Who, if any, non-realist painters does he like?" And he says, "Then the abstractees." Okay, so that must be what you call a group of abstract artists, abstractees. Hadn't heard that either.
Um, I don't know. Klein is one of them, I would say.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Probably. I can't think of it right now. Can't think of any names to drop though.
Yeah. All right. Veronica Winters in Florida says, "How did your parents influence your artistic development? And is their influence, and do they influence you today or not?"
Yeah, my dad is an artist and was when I was a kid. He had a studio in the house, so I guess that was kind of my first exposure to like a real working artist. And so yeah, luckily they're both pretty supportive.
What kind of painting did your dad do?
He's an illustrator, so we did
Oh, okay.
some advertising back when they used artists for that kind of thing, or
Nice.
painters, I should say. Still use artists,
Yeah, yeah, right.
but mostly photography.
He did mostly photography.
No, he was a painter, but
Yeah.
now most advertising is like photography.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. What about today? Does your dad come and look at your work and go, "Nah, I don't think so, Jeremy. It's not there yet."
No, I mean he does look at it, but he says it looks great. So
Oh, okay.
never
He never
critiques it.
says it looks. He never says anything other than it looks great.
Yeah.
Okay, so how does the idea for a painting start for you? Like, how do you record your ideas? Are you the sort of person who makes little thumbnail sketches, or do you write things down, or do you make little voice memos? What do you do?
Yeah, I mean I've done all of the above, sketches, even some voice memos. Um, Sometimes I just have a good idea and it's kind of it's pretty clear, and I'll just start the painting. Sometimes driving down the highway, I've gotten ideas that way. Just seeing a scene that inspired something that in the end ultimately looked completely different than that thing that first inspired me. But at least that initial spark happened. Just you know, like seeing something like split second off the side of the road.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So what do you do when you're driving? How do you record that? You just
Yeah, you can't. Well, I mean, there's one painting actually. I think I was driving back from Utah with good friend Logan Ajej, and saw the scene that kind of inspired me. And I'm like, oh man, I gotta, that's or at least that's an idea for a painting. But it was pretty clear at the time, and I said, hand me my sketchbook, and I just kind of scribbled a little. That wouldn't make sense to anybody, but I could read it. Just a little design, and I think like a year later, I finally painted that one.
so did you make that little sketch as you were driving?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I was looking at the road, blind sketch.
Ah, okay. Oh, very good.
I mean, I might have glanced down for a second, but
All right.
it was safe. Yeah.
Um, Paul T. Levin on Instagram says, "How do you choose your motifs?"
I don't know. So, I mean, similar to how I answered the last question, which is it comes from a lot of places. Sometimes you just see a scene. I mean, I do a lot of landscape painting and painting from life, just doing small sketches. And so I get ideas doing that. When you're just sitting looking at the same subject for, an hour or two, the light's always changing. And sometimes during that time, it's just like a moment where, it's maybe not what you initially started to paint, but it gives you a good idea for the next painting.
Yeah. Do you think in
And
terms of motifs, or do you just think in terms of paintings? One painting to the next.
um, I don't know. I think more often, it happens all sorts of ways, but I think more often than not, it's um, maybe I have a design idea, maybe like could be almost an abstract design, nothing really based on reality. Um, just, it could be something that came up just sketching out a painting of something
Yeah.
else, or just something I see in nature. And I'll just kind of file that away for another time. And just like, I can base, just build something around that kind of simple abstract design.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, maybe I should say composition instead of design.
Yeah. No, well, I don't know, but design sounds like it sort of resonates more with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Lucy on Patreon, thanks for the tea, Lucy, says, I'm really interested in how you compose your paintings and especially how you pose your models to create the appearance of effortless perfection. Do you work from photographs? And if so, do you take hundreds and select one that speaks to you? Or do you carefully stage and construct the image at the photography stage? Thank you, John, for the podcast. You're welcome, Lucy.
Thanks, Lucy. A lot of different things go on to kind of create a good composition. I mean, it's rarely getting one good photo and painting from that. It's, a lot of times I'll do, or at least for big paintings anyways, I'll kind of plan out the sketch and the design and go through a lot of different variations, until I'm happy with one. And then a lot of times, once I blow that up on a larger scale, it doesn't work as well as it did as a thumbnail. So I might have to make some changes and adjust placement of things, and more subtle things. But
So do you take lots of photographs? Like how many
yeah,
photographs would you take of?
Yeah, hundreds, thousands,
Hundreds,
maybe.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then do you composite them or like sort of on something like Photoshop, or do you just sort of pick the bits the photos and the parts of the photos that you want to work from and use as reference?
Yes, yeah. Sometimes I'll do some Photoshop work. I'll kind of compose everything if there's a lot of elements. If I feel like it'll be useful and maybe save time in the end in the final painting. Um, Sometimes if I'm happy with my little pencil sketch, I'll just use that and just use different pieces of reference. But once I've got it kind of laid out on the big canvas, um, it doesn't really matter if I've got a you know one piece of reference to work from. That everything is already put in place.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Steve Underwood on Twitter says, how important do you
Oh,
feel
oh, hey,
photography
Steve.
is to, Steve. Hey, yeah, he says, how important do you feel photography is to creating your works?
It's yeah, I don't know. It's more important now than it was when I was younger. I used to just paint mostly from life, and even big paintings. Um, so, but I think the difference now is I paint more from memory, and I mean I kind of like not having the reference in front of me, um, especially from life. You just kind of get overwhelmed. There's so much stuff going on, and so with a photograph, I can just pull it out when I need to. Usually in the beginning, I'll use my photo reference in my sketches. Have a few things out on my easel, and after a certain point, I just kind of put everything away and just kind of look at the painting on its own, kind of decide where it needs to go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I think it's when you're not standing in front of a tired model or a sunset that's going to go away in a few minutes. You have a little more freedom to um, kind of think about the painting on its own and not really compare it to what you're seeing.
Yeah, 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 that makes sense. Rebecca Griffith in Colorado says, wow, it finally happened. She's talking about our conversation. So thankful, Lipking, for sharing your knowledge in this episode. I know you paint your family a lot. Do you take most of your own photo references? And do you then print out those photo references to the scale of the canvas?
Yes and no. I do, yeah, I take all when I do use photos, I take my own photos. Don't use anybody else's photos or hire anybody to do it. Um, yeah, I don't print them out. I just just use a computer monitor.
Right.
I
Do you?
can zoom in if I need to.
Yeah. Have you done anything to your computer monitor to, some people they they use their computer monitor, but they have tweaked it especially so that to their own, so that it suits them. Have you done anything like that?
No, yeah, I haven't done any tweaks or alterations.
Okay. Vicky Sullivan on Patreon, thanks for the tea. Vicky says, "I'd love to know if Jeremy paints his outdoor figure paintings from life, and if he uses photos, what equipment and tips for getting great photos for painting from when you're outdoors." So yeah, any tips for photographing outdoors?
Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, so yeah, I do paint from life, but usually when I'm painting, I'm also taking some photos at some point. Um, I'm not sure. I don't know if I could give any great photography advice, but I mean, you could take good photos with a crappy camera. It's not don't necessarily need a great camera, although it helps if you have a good lens and a good camera. Maybe one tip is to take a lot of photos and at different exposures, just so you can
Okay.
record some information in the darks and in the lights.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You never know what you're going
Yeah.
to need later.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take more than you need, more than you think you need.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not like you're paying for processing.
Yeah,
Do you do color studies or value studies before you start?
yeah. For big paintings, I usually do. Like if something's maybe you know bigger than 40 inches on any side, I'll tend to do like a little color study.
Right.
Not always, most of the time. Didn't always do that, but what I did, I tried it once, and it was like, wow, this is like magic. I don't have to repaint vast swaths of the painting just because I made a dumb mistake that could have been solved early on in a small scale.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah,
Most people who've been painting for, not most people, but a lot of artists who've been painting for a long time, they're like, oh, I used to do that, but then no, I don't do it anymore. Yeah, I really should do that. But yeah, the way you've just described it is like, it makes, it's a sort of good ad for doing color studies.
yeah. I think when I was younger, I was just too anxious to get started into the real painting.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Just once you get all excited about something, it's just wanted to get started.
And then how does the drawing phase go for you? So you've got your sketch, you know where you're going. It's time to start. How do you get the sketch onto the canvas?
I don't use pencil or charcoal. Just use a paintbrush, like something I can get a sharp line with, and I tend to just do really simple, just either simple straights or curves. Um, no detail at all. Sometimes it's just a mark just to indicate maybe where the top of the head is or the brow line or the nose. Kind of just do the minimal amount that I need just to get going, because I'm gonna paint over it anyways. I don't know, maybe if I feel like if I've got too many lines on the canvas, it's I'm too careful painting on top of them. If I have just a
Yeah.
few little landmarks down there, it's not a big deal to paint right over it. And if I need to, I can pull it out later.
So if I understand then that there's no drawing phase as such, you just start painting and then it starts to come into focus, the shapes
Yeah, I
and the
guess
different.
I mean, there's some drawing, but it would be more like a quick sketch. If you did like like a 2 minute or 5 minute figure drawing, where you're just kind of drawing gesture lines.
Yeah, right.
Except maybe I'll measure a little more carefully to make sure they line up where they need to be.
Yeah. Okay. Um, Anna C. in the Netherlands says, "Hello, John and Jeremy. I'd love to know which surfaces Jeremy uses to paint on, and if he keeps his paint as flat as possible, or if that is just his painting technique." In brackets, then she says, "The paintings don't look like they have a lot of texture to them." So, what sort of
Um,
substrates do you like
yeah,
to paint
there's
on?
not so yeah, been lately I've just been painting on I guess there's three linens I've been using. It's L84C, L64C, and then L21C from um shoot, I forgot art. I forget the name of the I get panels from Raymar art panels, and I
Right.
actually get the rolls from them too.
Okay.
I forget who makes that canvas though. But yeah, so I work on panels, yeah, if I'm doing something maybe 1620 or below,
And
and
they're
then I'll
wooden
stretch.
panels, are they?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And the with the and then it's linen. So is Anna right? Like, are you trying to keep the paint as flat as possible, or is that just something that doesn't translate in photography? Is there a bit of texture there?
Some Yeah, there's definitely more texture. I mean, it's yeah, I always have a little trouble photographing my paintings just so that the texture doesn't become too distracting. It's hard because you want to show a little bit, but you also want to see the accurate color and value in the photograph. So, but I guess I do paint a little flatter now than I did when I was younger, but it also depends on the subject. Some subjects, um, I feel like it needs more thicker paint, just more texture, and maybe some parts, I intentionally keep it flat, but I guess I don't intentionally keep the whole painting flat. But I am, I should say, I'm conscious of how it's going to look if it's, once it's hanging on a wall or in a gallery. Um, in that, I'm careful not to make any brush strokes, especially with darker values that kind of go in opposition to the direction of the light. So, for example, if you've got a shadow on the side of a face, horizontal brush stroke in the middle of a bunch of vertical brush strokes um, could read as something accidentally just because of the glare from the light.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. I don't think I've ever thought of that. That's brilliant. Um, James Sizemore on Instagram says, "Your work is awesome." He's talking about you there. What's your approach to starting a painting, particularly underpainting stage? Thank you very much. So yeah, do you do an underpainting, or how does that
Uh,
stage go?
yeah, not really. Never really do a underpainting. Sometimes if it's if there's a lot of darks or if it's dark painting, I'll put like a darker wash or maybe block in the dark shadow area with something first. But generally, I just start with a blank white canvas, put a thin wash of usually ivory black, and then just start painting on top of that.
Wow, ivory black. Why do you do that? I haven't heard that before.
Just I don't know. Just I tried it once and liked it. I used to use different colors like ultramarine and transparent oxide red, or sometimes ultramarine and orange
Yeah.
or green. But I don't know. Just use black now.
Wow. Okay. So I'm guessing you don't do you don't do a grisaille phase, or do you?
No, no.
No, didn't think so. Christy Dunn on Patreon, thanks for the tea. Christy says, "Thank you, Jeremy, for your brilliant work, and thank you, John, for bringing so much inspiration to my world." Well, you're welcome, Christy. "Jeremy, I am intrigued by the colors you choose for your backgrounds and the way you use value and color temperature. Can you talk about your use of warm and cool color and how you choose your background colors? Thank you."
The the background colors, I guess. I guess are we talking about maybe a figure in the landscape or something?
Yeah, let's say
Let's.
that.
I mean, just for example, yeah. It's usually based on something I've seen in nature, usually, um, or if it's not, sometimes I'll have an idea and then I'll have a model go out to a particular place that kind of fits my vision. So, but anyways, I'm kind of going by what I see at first, and from there I do manipulate the colors a little bit just to, I don't know, maybe work better with my composition, or at least to tell the story better that I'm trying to tell. Um, I can't think of a specific example I could give right now, but I guess
So the
I guess the
whole
answer,
warm
yeah.
and well, I was going to say the whole warm and cool color thing. It sounds like that's not a conscious thing on your part. You're more just responding to what you're trying to get for the painting. Is that right?
Uh, yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess I do think about warm and cool when I'm kind of coming up with the concept for a painting. Um, but I don't know. I think once I start, I'm not sure if I could even answer the question, because I feel like once I kind of start painting, I just paint more intuitively. I'm not really thinking about warms or cools, or
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel
You're
like,
not
yeah,
thinking
maybe
now.
because
I'm
I've
just, yeah, go
maybe
ahead.
because I've kind of solved that earlier on, figured out that part of it, and not thinking about it so
Yeah.
much once I get into the painting.
In the color sketch kind of end of things.
Right.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So you're not there going, okay, now I'm gonna add a bit of cool here and I'm gonna add a bit of warm here. It's just all you're sort of in flow, really. It sounds like.
Yeah, just kind of, yeah, it's really just nothing. You're just kind of in the moment, kind of like a meditation where you just, um, I mean, you're thinking about a lot of things at once, but at the same time, you're really not thinking about anything. Or at least that's
Yeah.
how it feels. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Chris Clamp on Patreon, thanks for the tea. Chris says, I'm so excited about this conversation. Thank you, John and Jeremy, for sharing this discussion with us. Jeremy, years ago, I had read that you mix a light, cool color on your palette and then add this mixture to your other colors. Would you please share how this is utilized in your paintings? I love your work. Thanks.
Thanks. So, yeah, I use a light blue color, but I don't really mix it with. I don't really pre-mix it with other colors. If that's kind of what it sounded like you're getting at. I mean, and I've had people ask me that before, if I use that light blue just to kind of unify or give it a color harmony. Um, I don't do a lot of pre-mixing unless it's a really large painting, just to save some time.
Yeah.
Kind of just kind of start mixing color and just one brush stroke at a time. So, but yeah, I mean, the purpose of the light cool color, which usually it's King's blue. Sometimes I'll mix ultramarine with white, a little bit of alizarin. Um, just none of the other cool colors on my palette are, they're all pretty dark in value. So a lot of times you just need to cool down a light value. So if you just go straight for ultramarine or cobalt, it's going to alter the value a little too much. So it's just a little shortcut to cooling down a light value color.
Okay. Yeah, that's very good. Marcella Gillenwater on Instagram says, is there a color pattern that you follow? Such as if I use yellow in the light, I do X to transition. Hang on, let me read that better. If I use yellow in the light to do X to transition and then end with Y in the shadows. Or is it a decision made case by case? P.S. John Dalton, huge crush on you. Thanks for all your interviews. They're wonderful. Well, thanks, Marcella. So, yeah. Are you formulaic like that?
No, not really, but if I don't know, if I'm trying to think if I can give any kind of advice here on this question, but yeah, I'm just kind of open for anything happening. I like to paint different types of light, and I don't like to have any preconceived ideas of what I'm going to mix for that particular scene or person. Um, but I guess you can be pretty sure that if let's say the light is kind of like it's going to have a little more of one color than the other. So you've got the three primary colors. So if it's a cool, it's going to have blue first. And second, it's going to have either a little more red or a little more yellow. So let's say you have like more of a violet light. So there's red in there. The shadows are probably not going to be red shadows. They're probably going to be more yellow.
Yeah.
It'll look monochromatic, I think, if you have, light cool with a little bit more red and then dark and red shadows. But I don't think there's any really hard rule.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you wanted one little, if you're having trouble, that might help.
Right. Very good. H. Mazach in the UK says, "What palette do you use, please?" So, do you have a favorite color palette that you always start off with?
Yeah. So I've got, pretty standard palette, and sometimes I'll add colors to it if either for fun, or Michael Harding, who I get my paints from. Sometimes he'll send me, a lot of times he'll send me a new color. So I'll try those out, and sometimes it sticks. But so yeah, just starting from the left, I use Kremnitz white. Then I'll use sometimes titanium. Lately, I've been using warm white. It's called warm white, lead white alternative,
Yeah.
which is, I don't know, close to, it has the tinting strength closer to titanium than it does the Kremnitz. And there's another color that I sometimes will put out. It's like another warm white. It's like a little warmer than the next one. Not always though. So after white, then I'll use a couple of
Sorry,
yellows.
was there a
So
third white there? I didn't catch the name of it.
I can't remember the name. I
Oh,
don't
okay.
use it all the time. I'll post it on Instagram when I get back to the studio.
Okay.
It's just a little warmer than the warm white.
Yeah.
So I'll use usually like a really pale yellow. Lately, I've been using lead tin yellow, or lemon yellow. But lately I've just been using lead tin yellow. It's kind of nice. And then cad yellow, medium, I think. Cadmium orange, then cad red, medium or light. I don't, whatever tube is laying out. Alizarin crimson or alizarin permanent or alizarin claret. One type of alizarin, same, whatever's laying out on the table. Transparent oxide red, ultramarine blue, cobalt blue, viridian, and ivory black.
Very good.
So if I'm painting, sometimes I'll put a different green out there if I'm painting. It's not usually very green where I paint, but I mean this time of year it is. So if I was painting something like that, I'll put out like not even sure the name. I'm so unfamiliar with it, but just a green that's kind of one of those obnoxious, bright, colorful greens. When I went to Yorkshire, I brought a few different greens, and they came in handy.
Yeah. 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 Were you reading that off a list, or do you just know that off the top of your head?
I just know it off the top of my head. I
Wow.
put them out every day almost.
Yeah. Yeah. Brilliant. Jeremy in New Zealand says, "Do you have any advice for painting realistic looking skin? What's your palette for painting skin tones?"
Nice name, by the way. It,
Oh, no, yeah.
I don't have, you know, I've used almost every color in my palette to paint skin colors, so I don't have any go-to formula. It's a little different each time. I think when I one of the shows I had several years ago, I think at Arcadia, I posted something, and I don't think a lot of people understood it. Maybe I should repost it again and describe it a little more. But I took out like color swatches of these are all portraits. I think it had like 5 portraits that I chose, and like light from the cheek or the forehead, something that was like one of the lighter lights in the face, and then put them all next to each other, and none of them really looked like flesh tones on their own. There's some were green, some were blue, and some were red. But when you look at it in the painting, in context, with all the other colors in relation to that, it, looks like a somewhat realistic skin color. Some paintings are just more green than others. Some were a little more red. But when you kind of when I laid them out all together, I mean, you really see how extreme the difference is between the paintings, and how there's really no formula at all.
Yeah. Yeah, it's it's a question that comes up a lot, particularly for if I'm chatting with the painter who's very good, skin tones look lovely. Nearly always get the question, how do you paint
Yeah,
those skin tones? And
I think what I was going to say, I mean, the important part is just the relationships between the colors. You can paint like you and I could set up in front of the same model, and if we're both attempting to paint what that model looks like, we could do it and both be successful, but still have different, paintings in different color keys. You might paint a little more red, mine might be a little more blue. But if the relationships between the colors are right or close, it's still going to look like that model. In the same way, I don't know if you play music or piano, so you can play, the same melody in different keys, and it's just the relationship between the notes that's the same. You're just playing in a different key on the piano, and similar to paint.
yeah, that's a very good analogy, because the notes all have to connect. Like if you go down a key or up a key or whatever, once the notes are all still in that set or in the pattern they're supposed to be in, it's going to work. But if you play half the notes from one key and half the notes from another key, yeah, it's not going to sound good.
Yeah.
I think it's human though, isn't it? Like it's like if you're interested in painting people, like skin is like it's something that people can get really hung up on. Because I know for myself anyway, like if you're trying to paint skin, you're in trouble. Whereas if you are trying to paint what you see or what's your reference, or then you've got a much better chance of doing it. But it's like that thing of like, oh, I want to capture the beauty of that person's face. That's where that's the problem.
Yeah, I can't think of any other secrets to share on that subject, because there aren't any.
Yeah. Natalia Fabia in California, former podcast guest, episode number 68, if you're looking for it, says, ask him why he's so awesome. His paintings are so beautiful. I hate him. Just kidding. Also, ask him if there was a color that he couldn't live without for flesh.
Oh, thanks. I love you, Natalia. I don't know, white, maybe. I don't know. Not sure if there's one besides that. Maybe the next color down would be red that I couldn't do without. Cad red.
Okay. Yeah. White or red. Yeah. Benjamin Lester on Instagram says, I loved the muted palette. If he could talk about his selective use of saturation and how he uses this to push narrative. Love the podcast and you as a person, John. Thank you. Oh, thanks, Benjamin. That's lovely. So yeah, muted and saturation.
I generally just paint what looks right to me, and it just ends up looking that way. So I don't really plan a painting to be in a certain key, or maybe that's wrong. Sometimes I do plan like a certain color key, like maybe a painting is going to be more green. But as far as like subtle color changes or muted color changes, it's not really part of the plan. It just doesn't look right to me when there's too much extreme color change in the wrong place.
Yeah. It sounds like, and just from looking at your paintings, that you are just naturally, you just steer away from high saturation. Like when you were talking about the greens like on those garish green colors, it's like,
yeah. But I do, so sometimes I will use them, but it's in a way where it, like, I don't know. I mean, there's the painting I did not too long ago where I just wanted the lightest, there was something red in it, like a red blanket. So I wanted to use like pure cad red medium in there, not diluted down with white or anything else. And so I just put that down first and then just built everything else, it made it relate to that properly.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of red, but the rest of the painting had a lot of red in it too. So it didn't, the red didn't seem as powerful as it did on blank canvas, or if I painted it on green canvas, green grass around there, it didn't look as powerful as that. So it was pretty strong. It was just the way it related to the other colors makes it look a little more muted than it is.
Yeah. Will you use a more saturated color for focus sometimes?
Yeah, sometimes. But I don't think it's that I don't use saturated colors. They're just in areas where they don't look saturated. A lot of times my shadows are really warm and almost hot, but sometimes I'll just use a really like warm yellow. Sometimes I'll use gold green. That's another color I don't put out every time, but if the shadows of a particular subject are going to be more on the yellow side, and I need like a dark yellow, I'll use gold green.
Right.
Or green gold. I forget which way it is.
All right.
So it's like that kind of transparent sap greenish looking color.
Yeah, yeah. Have you seen that movie about Turner? Came
No,
out
I
a
haven't
couple of
seen
years
it.
ago. Yeah, there's this great scene where he's hanging a painting up in the salon in London with all the other painters, and Hogarth is there, and who's the other guy? The Haywain. What's his name? Can't remember. I was going to say
I
Wordsworth,
don't
but
know.
anyway, all those kind of guys, and it's basically a big kind of competition, and they're saying something about his painting, like it's a bit flat or a bit boring or something like that, and because it's hanging day, they can still do stuff to their paintings. So he gets this daub of red, and he just pretty much slaps the canvas right. It's a seascape, slaps it right in the middle. This daub of red, and then he just sort of goes around with a rag and makes a shape out of it, and it's like a buoy, like in the sea. But
Yeah.
it's like it just electrifies the whole painting because it's like this
Oh yeah.
red dot focus. It's a great scene.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real. It's great in lots of ways because it's real one-upmanship to all the other guys. They all get it.
Oh yeah.
Like,
No, it's funny. Yeah, sometimes I'll put little tiny accents of bright colors somewhere, like a transition of shadows. A lot of times you'll see it there. Transition between like the light and dark.
yeah, 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 yeah. On edges as well, I've seen. Because sometimes when the light hits a person, it's almost like makes a very bright edge.
Right.
I've seen you do that as well.
So I think it's that most of the paint on the canvas is kind of grayed down or to some degree, but there's a lot of it's not like I have a lot of big patches of bright intense color. It's
Yeah, yeah,
mostly grays and little accents here and there throughout the painting. But I think I mean you really need that actually if you're painting with cools and grays, because when you look at it in person, grays don't look as good as they do just on they don't on their own. They don't look that great, but next to a really strong warm or cool color, it takes on a whole new color to itself.
yeah, yeah, yeah. James Sizemore on Instagram says, "What brand of oil paint do you like?" Well, you've kind of mentioned it.
Yeah,
Michael Harding
he's all Michael Harding paint now.
exclusively.
Yeah.
Wow, great. Kevin Mann on Patreon, thanks for the tea. Kevin says, "Hi chaps, looking forward to listening to this podcast. Instead of asking how you glaze or choose colors, which I'm sure you will be asked, I'd like to ask how you achieve such soft transitions on the cheeks of the model."
I just careful control of the values. One way to do that is to use the Kremnitz white instead of titanium. It just makes it a lot easier to subtly lighten the color or change the color, just because it has so little tinting strength compared to titanium. You can do it with titanium. It's just a little more difficult because you accidentally get too much on your brush, you're going to completely change the value.
Yeah, okay, that's good. And anything else? It's a nice question,
That's
isn't it? The subtle
yeah,
transitions of the cheek of the model, very specific.
Yeah, I mean, I think number one is just if you know it doesn't look subtle, then you probably know how to fix it. Just make it more subtle. But if you're having trouble actually, just technically, mixing a more subtle value, try a different white. And it's not as powerful.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great tip. Do you have a particular medium that you like to use?
I've used. I don't use a lot of medium, but sometimes I'll put out the Chelsea Classical Studio Lean medium.
Right. Is that something you mix up yourself or you buy?
No, it just comes already mixed up.
Okay. Where do you get that from?
I get it from let's see where I think Jerry's Artorama. That's where
Oh,
I
okay.
order it
So
from.
it's
Yeah,
standard. It's not some special. I haven't
yeah,
heard of it before. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Do you know what's in it? What the mixes,
Um,
the ratios are?
no, yeah, I don't even know. Not sure.
Okay. So just say the name of it again, just for someone who's listening.
Uh, Chelsea Classical Studio Lean. I've got
Chelsea
a few. They've got
Classical
a few different
Studio.
ones. I think a fat and a lean and maybe one other.
Oh, okay. And that's the one you use mostly.
Yeah, yeah. But I usually don't use it. I'm gonna try to just try to avoid mixing too much. Just use the Michael Harding paint's pretty soft compared to like Old Holland or Winsor Newton. So I kind of just
Yeah.
use that straight from the tube, and
Yeah, yeah.
I don't really need a whole lot of medium, but if I do, I've it's available on my palette, so that's what I use.
Yeah. Yeah, I was talking to Will Roachford a couple of weeks ago, and he uses Michael Harding as well. And he's pretty much said exactly the same thing. He said it just comes out so nicely, you don't need anything with it.
Yeah, yeah. It's pretty rare that I need a paint that's a little more stiff. And if I do, I have a tube of Old Holland lead white, maybe a few other colors, but yeah, most of the time the Michael Harding paint works just fine. I don't really need really stiff paint,
Yeah,
because when I was using that paint before, I would have to just add oil and soften it up sometimes.
yeah, yeah. Vicky Sullivan again on Patreon says, "I was wondering what your favorite brush is to paint eyes. Have you found a brush to take the place of the Rosemary Mongoose 279 size 0 or anything close to it? I have a few of them and I'm worried for when they get old. The new synthetic Mongoose are okay in the larger size, but nothing can do what the size 0 does."
Yeah, I know you're right. It's not. There isn't really any alternative that works as good as those. But like somebody tipped me off that they were going to become unavailable, so I just bought as many as I could and stockpiled. So I still have some actually. But there's a couple others I use, and I just use them until they completely run out of hair. Sometimes just a few hairs left, and I'll still use it for highlights or little tiny shapes. But yeah, the other one I wish I could remember the name. There's another one that's the closest replacement to that, and I think it's a sable brush. I wish I could remember. I'll post it on my Instagram.
And is it
It's
that's a rosemary brush as well, is it?
Yeah, it's a rosemary. I can't remember the series name, um, but it's like a long sable, same shape as the mongoose hair, maybe a little longer. Um, but yeah, those work pretty good. That's kind of what I'm using. Um, just if I feel like conserving the few mongoose brushes I have left, I'll use that one.
Right. Brian Romeo in New Jersey says, "Hi, John and Jeremy. You are able to achieve such unbelievable richness in both your loose and refined brushwork. I was wondering if you have any go-to brushes in terms of brand, bristle type, and size. And how many brushes do you keep at the ready, in inverted commas, when you're settling into work? Thanks. Can't wait for this interview."
Thanks. So I have a lot. I mean, more brushes than I would even use, just laid out and ready to go. And then I've got even more in jars close by. Um, so and really just a variety. So I've got bristle brushes. I have those synthetic evergreen the ones with the green hair. I don't know if you've seen those from
Yeah.
Rosemary.
Yeah.
Use those a lot for the bigger ones, for the bigger sizes. And then for the smaller ones, I still have some mongoose hair brushes. And then I use the one that I can't remember the name, that sable. I think it's pure sable. I don't know what the series is though. And there's different shapes. I have some filberts, and some short flats, some long flats, and don't use fan brushes, but almost every other shape you could think of.
All right. Palette knives at all?
Yeah, a little bit. Mostly just for like scraping and mixing, and every once in a while, a particular subject needs some palette knife in it. But yeah, so I've got a few. Like usually, I have like 3 different sizes out.
Yeah. Mahendran on Instagram says, fabulous painter. Again, talking about you. Have been following him for a while. Fascinating, and I would like to know how he achieves distinctive but soft edges and ethereal quality to the background. Thank you. And then Judith Thomas on Instagram says, wonderful painter. Again, talking about you. Would you share any information on how you achieve your subtle glowing backgrounds?
The edges, it's sometimes it's just a matter of just soft, blending one color into the neighboring color. But most of the time, when people ask me that question, I think they're more describing values that are close together. So you can give the appearance of a soft edge just by having the 2 values, the neighboring value close to whatever it is you're painting, and still have a pretty sharp edge. So a lot of times I'll do it, especially a larger painting. I mean, that's how you create the appearance of a soft edge, is just have the values close together.
And then because of that, they kind of optically blend.
Right.
Like when you look at them, they're not actually, it's not a soft edge, but it sort of to your eye, it looks like it's a soft edge. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. And then to make it feel even more soft, you could put a really sharp edge on something else right next to it.
Great.
But small paintings, yeah, you could just kind of blend, or just kind of, even with a clean brush, just swipe one color into the next. But it's usually done just by painting one color on top of the next, or just controlling the values.
Right. And then the subtle glowing backgrounds. You have a
Um,
magic wand for that?
I don't know. Was that, and were they asking about a particular painting, or just in general?
Just in general, because the first Madron was saying, the ethereal quality to your backgrounds, and then Judith was saying, yeah, subtle glowing backgrounds. So yeah, I think they're talking about your just backgrounds in general.
I don't know. I don't know if I've got any sophisticated methods for creating that kind of background. I guess if it doesn't look glowing and I want it to be glowing, I'll just keep changing it until it starts to glow. Maybe.
Come on, how do you do that? Magic. It's a magic wand, isn't it?
Yeah, if it's a warm, maybe it's just having a lot of contrast. So it could be, sometimes I'll paint a figure that looks like it's in front of a really bright background. Like it could be like a figure outdoors and the sky is just really bright and warm. And if you paint too light in the face, the background's obviously, by comparison, it's not going to look that bright. But if your lightest value in the face is several steps down from the lightest light in the background, then all of a sudden the background looks like it's like you've got a bright light glowing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think as well, just from memory now of looking at a lot of your paintings, a lot of the ones that are at sunset or close to sunset, I think like painting that time of the day, that golden hour, automatically you're already set up to have a glowing background. It's gonna
Yeah.
That's gonna help a lot. I imagine. Am I on the right track there?
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I would say, yeah, in general, dark backgrounds don't glow. So Um, you
You
have,
heard it here on this podcast. Jeremy Lipkin, dark
yeah,
backgrounds don't
yeah.
glow. Oh, that's
If I'm if
great.
I'm if I'm wrong, call me out. That's fine. But I'm gonna. So maybe the foregrounds just need to be really dark.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
backgrounds
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do you check yourself as you're working? You know, like some artists, they have mirrors, or they'll turn the canvas upside down, or they'll take photos with their phone, or they'll be squinting or jumping back and forth, or they'll get their friends in to give them some critiques. What sort of things do you do?
I've got a mirror that I look in. It's kind of just my regular. It's a little too small now. I mean, my old studio. Um, I'm in a smaller studio now, but for a long time I had a huge mirror up high behind me, and it just made it really easy. Even a large painting, I could just like glance back and see, that large painting in reverse, from more of a distance.
Yeah,
So I guess that's the main thing. Just a mirror.
just a mirror.
Yeah.
All right. What's your varnishing preference?
I use Conservatives Products Company varnish, and I mix. They make, I think, two, maybe more, but I use 50% matte and 50% gloss.
Right.
And then the gloss, if you're going to look for it online, it's not called gloss; it's called finishing varnish.
Right. And that gives you,
But the matte's called matte.
yeah, mixing the two. What are you aiming for by doing that?
It well, the gloss just looks too shiny for my taste, and the matte is just a little too flat. And so, I don't it's not the perfect 50-50 ratio.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll maybe have a little more matte or a little more gloss, but just kind of just guess and eyeball it when I'm mixing it up.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. What kind of lighting setup do you have in your studio?
I've got it's not yeah that's not really sophisticated. I just had some LED lights installed. They're these kind of flat panel, and
Oh, yeah.
they're not yeah they weren't didn't really they're kind of in the wrong place. So it was getting too much glare. So before I had these big shop light fixture, and the ballast went out. So that's when I switched out these. That's when I got these LED lights. But they weren't bright enough, and they're in the wrong spot. So I've got to have them redone. So right now I just have like an LED portable shop light, just hanging on the. There's a wood beam behind me, so I'm just hanging it from a beam on a screw. Like I said, it's not sophisticated at all, but it does the job.
Yeah. Kim Power in New York says, you have a tremendous talent for creating luminous paintings. What advice would you give to a painter that wants to represent more light in their paintings? Thank you, with respect and admiration.
I would, I would say one trick is to maybe try paint. I don't know if let's say you're attempting to get luminous colors in a painting and it's not working. Um, maybe you're painting too light in value. You could still have some luminosity if you have like if you're painting in a little darker key. Um, just know from experience in workshops, I mean, a lot of people tend to paint too bright, at least for what they're going for. Um, I think my paintings in general are a little darker in value,
Right.
but still, sometimes I'll use like the full range of values, but a lot of times the lightest light is pretty far off from a bright white.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that. I just feel more comfortable painting in that key, and the colors work a little better. And when you add a lot of white to something, it's tends to just really cool it down, and then you just lose that vibrance that you can get if you just bring it down a couple notches.
Yeah. 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 It's like I'm sort of getting that from everything you're saying of like if you like being more subdued gives you more space to kind of make the bits that you want to pop. They pop a lot better if you don't
Yeah,
overdo
I
them.
mean, that's yeah, no, it's definitely a good point. Yeah, you still got a little room to go brighter if you need to somewhere. Usually I don't, but yeah, even the lightest lights, say it's like a something white. Let's say it's snow in the bright sunlight. It's still not pure white. I have some color in there.
Yeah. 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 What, if anything, do you listen to as you're working?
Sometimes nothing, but usually I'll have like a podcast or music, classical music, or an audiobook.
Right. Zakhar Samov on Instagram says, "Thank you, Jeremy, for your love for art and knowledge that you share. You've been a huge inspiration. What strategy do you use while painting evening light? The sun goes down so fast. Thank you for this podcast. Looking forward to hearing it."
Yeah, paint small. That's the easiest way to do it. Just paint fast and small. Yeah. Don't do a
That's
30
the
by
key.
40. Yeah.
That's the key to plein air painting.
Yeah.
It's fast and small.
Just keep, my canvases get smaller and smaller. So now I just, if I'm traveling or just doing want to do a quick painting, I cut 6x8 canvases in half, or 6x8 panels. Got to use small brushes if I want to get some detail, but I can, get down what I want to a lot quicker.
Yeah, right. That's very good. How do you name your paintings?
Sometimes I just come up with the name while I'm painting it. Other times I'll ask a friend. I have a couple of friends who are really good at naming paintings. So sometimes, especially if I've got several paintings, it's, I've already kind of have no more names left in me. So I'll send it to a friend, and usually I could get a really good title that way.
Oh, good. It's like a naming service. Very good. Paul T. Levin on Instagram says, "There's such serenity to your art. Is that deliberate, or perhaps a reflection of your personality and outlook?"
Yeah, I spend all day out in nature, just kind of like what you see behind me, and not really. Just I'm in the studio most of the time, but I do like to spend a lot of time outdoors. And I don't know, I just kind of paint paintings that I just try to paint paintings that I have fun painting and enjoy, subjects I enjoy.
Right. So you're not consciously going, okay, I'm going to paint a very serene painting now.
No, it's just accident.
Yeah. But you, like, just from like our little chat so far, you seem like a very calm, you could be described as serene a little bit, kind of personality. No, unless this is a great act, which I don't think it is. It sounds like what he's saying is like, right, that it's more just a reflection of who you are.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe on the inside it's not as serene. I feel like I've always got ideas and don't have enough time in the day to do everything I want to do. But at least like on the outside.
Yeah. Yeah, like you're
way.
like a swan. On the outside, above the surface, yeah. Underneath, the legs are going like the clappers. Yeah, it's like me. That's very like me.
Yeah.
Okay, Beth Ann Newman says, I think she was on Instagram, says, did you always know you wanted to go in the art direction that you did? How did you start down your training path, and how was your training, and how long after your training did you find your voice? Basically, your whole art history, please. Okay, so you don't have to do your whole art history, but
I guess so. It's I found this this teacher named Glenn Orbick, and just took drawing from him. And at the time there was just a few. I think I'd taken some. This was after high school. I took some drawing classes at a college, and they just it was just kind of had a model, but you just kind of did your own thing. Maybe they'd suggest different mediums. Like, okay, there's charcoal for today, and we'll try ink tomorrow. But didn't really teach anything. So just by accident. I think my dad actually told me about it. This guy, Glenn Orbick, and yeah, he actually taught how to draw the figure. Um, so I kind of caught the tail end of his teaching at least at this school, and I think maybe I had him for a year, and then after that, I think I still got some critiques from him, but had some other teachers that I studied with, and they also I started teaching myself at the same place after about a year. So even though I was teaching, I was still learning a lot, just spending a lot of time drawing from life. And I had a small group of artists that I spent time with and painted with. Like Aaron Westerberg is one of them. I know you had him as a guest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that sounds kind of like minimal official kind of training and a lot of practice.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of always wish I had, some, I mean, at the time, I don't, it doesn't bother me now, but at the time I always felt like there's got to be some other way to learn how to do this besides kind of figuring out a little bit here and there from other artists or figuring it out on your own.
Yeah. So with all the ateliers that have come around since then, do you kind of look at them wistfully and go, oh, I would have loved to go to something like that?
Yeah, I know. And at the time, the Water Street Atelier was around, and I just didn't know about it. I mean, the internet was a much smaller place back then, and never even heard of it. I'm not. I probably could have moved out to New York and studied there anyways, but
Yeah. Ben Valentine on Instagram says, what did your early drawing training look like under Orbic and such? I.e., how long did you study drawing before moving on to painting? And what was the training like? For instance, shorter 20-minute figure drawing or longer 3 hour plus figure drawing? And finally, did you adopt any of the Riley method from Orbeck? Thank you.
it was a lot of short drawings and what was both short, quick drawings like 10-minute, 20-minute, 5 minutes, and then we also did some long 3 hour, maybe a few like 6 hour drawings. But in the classes, it was mostly shorter. So, but sometimes I'd get together, like Aaron and I would have a model if we wanted to do like a long drawing. We'd hire a model and work for longer.
Right.
So yeah, the Riley painting method. I don't know. I didn't really learn much about that from Glenn. I don't know a whole lot about it. I know some artists did. Some artists who I knew at the time, but never really worked with his palette, which I think is a lot of pre-mixed colors, kind of mix up dozens of colors and values.
Yeah, I don't think I know it. So I can't comment. I can't help you out there.
Yeah, I honestly don't know much about it either.
Yeah. And how long did you do the drawing before you moved on to painting?
So it was about. I mean, I did do some painting even when I started drawing with Glenn Orbick, but yeah, I guess I kind of took a break and just focused on drawing for about a year, and then started painting again.
Yeah. Jesse Welchuk, I'm sure I pronounced your name wrong there, Jesse. I'm sorry. On Instagram says, I couldn't be more excited. Thanks, John. Jeremy, looking back to when you were a student, what form of studying / practice do you think furthered your advancement as an artist the most? For example, master studies or drawing or that kind of thing.
Probably mostly drawing. I mean, I maybe did a couple of master's studies, but I think just drawing the figure from life probably is the biggest thing that helped the most.
Yeah. Do you think that focus, really focusing on drawing, do you think that is why you don't really have a drawing phase now? You just kind of, it's so in you that you're just kind of drawing and painting at the same time.
I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, I think um, I think being able to draw like allows you to kind of, abbreviate steps in doing a painting. I mean, I think it's just mostly because I like to, uh, the way I paint, I would, any kind of drawing, I'd cover it up in 5 minutes and it wouldn't really be useful.
Yeah. Do you do any drawing now? Like, do you do, like some artists, they still like to do, they'll just do drawings?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Not a lot of really long drawings. They're mostly quicker sketches, but I've got a few drawings that have just been laying around the studio that I'll just pick up and probably put in several hours on altogether. But I might just pick it up, work for an hour here and there.
Yeah. Um, OM in New York on Instagram. That OM is all they've got. Are there any techniques that led to a turning point in your development?
Yeah, um, I mean, I can think of one. There's an artist. Um, I mean, there's probably a lot, but one in particular I could think of. I was using, really kind of muted colors, like really earthy colors for painting the figure, painting the face, yellow ochre, browns and stuff. And Steve Houston, an artist, he said, yeah, just try some cadmium colors. And ever since I just started using bright colors, never really went back to using those kind of earth colors.
Right. So that was a turning point.
Yeah, just because yeah, definitely. And I get, sometimes people ask me, why don't, if you're going to end up painting these kind of grayed down colors in the final painting, why not just start with those from the tube? And it doesn't work the same. I just, because like I said earlier, when we were talking about the cool and gray colors contrasted with the kind of bright accents, there's still a lot of areas where I do use a really strong color. And so, if you've got cat orange on your palette, you can just easily take a pile of like mud or gray and warm that up.
Yeah.
If you're using some other colors, you'd have to, have a, sterile section of the palette with a clean brush.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mix up a really clean color to get that.
Yeah. Um, I meant to ask you, uh, you sound like you paint in a kind of Alla Prima style. Do you, or do you do a lot of glazing?
No, I don't do any glazing, but I guess I sort of do. I mean, I spend lots of days on a painting, so most of it's dry by the time I finish it. But I kind of maybe will work in sections, and I'll repaint areas if it's not quite right. Um, so sometimes I could just go in and if I need to adjust something, I could just adjust that little thing. But most of the time, I have to kind of repaint a big section of the painting just
Yeah.
so it matches with the rest of the painting.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Just don't I don't like it when it don't like if you can if you're looking at a painting, you could see, well, yeah, he had to brighten up the sky in that area, and you could actually see the brush strokes that don't quite match up with the brush strokes on the other side of the head.
Yeah.
So I'll just
Yeah.
repaint the whole background.
Yeah. Cheryl Juracic in Arizona says, "Thank you so much for this podcast, John." You're welcome, Cheryl. To Jeremy, you are so masterfully accomplished and your work feels very personal, though accessible to anyone. At what point in your direction or art career did you start making the work that felt like a satisfying expression of your artistic vision?
I mean, they're not always. I'm not always satisfied with it, but I don't know if I ever reached that point where yeah, I mean, every once in a while it's a painting where it's like, okay, it got pretty close there, but yeah, I've never been 100% satisfied with one. So I don't know. I just yeah, never reached that point. Not yet, anyways.
Yeah, like another way of asking that question was there a time when you were making work that wasn't an expression of your artistic vision?
Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, if I was that was always the goal. I've always just, I don't know, if I have a good idea for painting, I'm just going to paint it, whether whether I think somebody will buy it or not.
Yeah. Mary Beth Kong in Chicago says, I'm excited for this podcast. Thank you both so much for sharing. I really appreciate these talks. Well, that's great, Mary Beth. You're welcome. This is for you, Jeremy. What do you wish you could have told your younger artist self?
Um, I don't know. I guess, maybe it'd just be more general advice, not specifically art related. I don't know. Much. I mean, I think one good bit of advice for like a young art, just a young person in general. I mean, I think when you're young, you don't realize how valuable your time is when you're young, because usually broke, you're not making any money. You kind of think it's the opposite. If you've got, successful career and you're busy, your time becomes more valuable. But it's so valuable when you're young. Like you could take, just for example, like in taking an hour of learning to do something when you're 23, compared to, an hour trying to learn something when you're 43. I mean, you could soak up information like a sponge and learn to do almost anything relatively easy when you're young. Not so much when you're older. When you're young, you think you think you have all the time in the world.
Yeah.
I don't know why do young people drive so fast. Old people are the ones who drive slow. It should be the other way around. You should say, I think you should just, be more conscious of how valuable your time is when you're young.
Do you mean the value of your time?
Well, yeah. Let's like if you're, I don't know, we're spending time learning like a potential occupation. It's it's not might not pay off for another 10 years or so, but you can. I mean, that time is more valuable when you're young, just because you can learn things so much faster.
Yeah. But have you noticed like that time? Like we measure time it's always the same. Hours are the same for a child as for an adult, but the experience of time is completely different. Like if you say to a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old, just hang on for 10 minutes, like the percentage of their whole life that 10 minutes is huge compared to, if you said that to someone who's in their 50s, 10 minutes is a really small percentage of all the time that they've had in their life. So like for kids, to wait for a year, if you say to a child, I'll just wait for, in a year, it'll be fine, because you've lived for like whatever many years. In a year, you kind of know, and they get smaller as you get older. But for a child, like to wait for a whole year, if you're 6, that's like 1/6 of your whole life. Just wait for 1/6 of your whole life,
Yeah.
I wonder, is that why younger people are in a hurry, like you were saying?
Probably, yeah. Why they're the ones who drive fast. Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah, they're in a hurry to get somewhere.
Yeah.
Now, if you're thinking to yourself, God, I'm really enjoying this podcast. I've listened to a few now and they're brilliant. And there's so many of them. And I've learned so much from listening to them. And you know what? If I met that John Dalton fella in real life, I'd love to buy him a cup of tea and have a chat with him. I'd love to do that every month if I could. Well, now you can. The tea part at least, because this podcast runs on cups of tea bought for me by people like you who listen to the podcast and send me the price of a cup of tea once a month through the Patreon account. That's patreon.com/John Dalton Gently Does It. All one word. And if you're one of those people who already send me cups of tea through Patreon, thanks a million. The tea is lovely and I really appreciate it. Now, the great thing is that if you can't afford to send me the price of a cup of tea or you don't want to, that's fine. You still get exactly the same podcast for free. It's sort of an honor system where the people who can afford it and want to pay for the people who can't or don't want to. So it's all lovely. So if you'd like to send me a cup of tea once a month, you can do that through Patreon. I'd really appreciate it. It makes a huge difference to me. Susan Cartledge on Patreon, thanks for the tea, Susan, says, thank you, John, for interviewing Mr. Lipking. I would like to know what type of emotional hurdles he has had to overcome when painting family. I seem to have painter's block, in inverted commas, when attempting this. I feel like I'm objectifying them and my paintings end up flat rather than portraying the emotion that I feel. Any suggestions? Thank you.
Yeah, I guess um there's paintings where I set out to do where it's more like a portrait where I'm painting that particular person. And so those ones are a little more challenging than the other ones where it's where maybe I've got a general idea and I'm still painting one of my kids. I'm having a kid model for it, but it's not really. I don't care so much if I capture them perfectly. It's more about the story that I'm telling in the painting with the painting in general. So maybe just try to do a painting like that where you're not even, you know, or part of the goal is not to create a portrait of that person, and maybe have a little less pressure to get it exactly how you want.
Yeah. Have you had any emotional hurdles to get over, like when you have been painting your family?
Um, yeah, maybe not any that I don't encounter in any painting. There's always some emotional hurdles. Especially when things go wrong, you're not sure what it is.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so yeah, go through all the emotions in one painting sometimes.
Yeah. But the like what Susan is concerned about objectifying them and that kind of thing, though that doesn't sound like it comes into it for you.
No, no, because sometimes it's not not my goal wasn't to paint a portrait of that particular daughter in that painting. It was something else, and I'm using her as a model. And other times it is where it's trying to capture something really specific and nuanced about her. So
Yeah.
it's definitely more challenging.
Yeah. Yeah. There is they, to me anyway, the paintings of your children have and your wife have like almost palpable tenderness in them. Now I don't know if you're doing that on
Thanks.
purpose or not, but they really, you know, that really comes across.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome. Are you consciously trying to do that though?
Sort of. I mean, I'm, yeah, I guess sort of. Yeah, I'm not really consciously thinking that. I'm just,
Yeah.
I'm always when I'm painting, I'm just kind of in the moment, and if it, I mean, I know what looks right when I see it.
Yeah, yeah. Anne Marie Tissot says, would love to hear your reflections on painting as a father of young children. How have you practically maximized your painting efforts while including your family in your art practice? Thank you, gentlemen. Well, you're welcome, Anne Marie.
Yeah, it's just really, life's just really busy, and yeah, just always trying to save 5 minutes here and there. Um, so yeah, it's definitely a lot of sacrifices you have to make, with your art and on the other side with the family too. So it's not sure if I have any good insight into balancing that. Um, but try to balance it as best I could. But I guess you just have to be okay with making sacrifices on both ends, mostly with your time.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen you on your Instagram. There's lots of pictures of you, painting with the baby strapped to you, which is lovely.
Yeah, yeah, I've done a lot of that.
So,
They're a little too big for that now, but
yeah,
there's
it
yeah.
wouldn't be a
But I
good
have
look.
yeah I have yeah I have a 5-year-old twin, so there. I mean, there's maybe I could fit it, but it'd be kind of get in the way maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know if they'd even want to be strapped on me at this point.
So often when I have women artists on who are parents, people ask, how do you balance motherhood or parenthood and being a painter? And when I have male artists on, men, if they've got kids, they never get asked that question. So, but I like to ask it, like, how do you manage it practically?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a challenge, especially, for the last like 2.5 or 3 years, my studio's been at the house. Um, so like during COVID when the schools were shut down, I mean, that was a challenge. I mean, I honestly didn't paint a whole lot when the schools were closed, because I've got 6 kids. 5 of them are young, still in school, and the 2 older ones are pretty self-sufficient, but they're all doing Zoom class school on Zoom.
Yeah.
And it's not like you just log on once and stay on for the day. It's broken up into 3 sessions throughout the day. And so the 3 younger ones, I mean, you have to just somebody has to be there to help them. So we're just kind of full-time Zoom monitors for a couple of years.
Yeah.
I mean, I
So
had to do a little painting, but it was tough. Didn't do a whole lot.
yeah. So so your wife helps out a lot with the taking care of the kids as well. I'm
Yeah,
guessing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Um, the next question is, who's your favorite kid? And that comes from Skylar Lipking in California.
Yeah, well, obviously it's Skylar.
That's your daughter, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that is her. Yeah,
Yeah. I think that sounds like the answer she was looking for.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Images Sombres on Twitter says, what motivates you into exploring certain themes and how they evolve over time?
Um, uh, it, it's I mean the initial inspiration comes from a lot of places. Like I said, sometimes just seeing a scene in nature, and sometimes it's just a color harmony or a color combination. Maybe something small in nature, like I don't know, like I mean, it could be something insignificant, just like the colors on rocks, or I don't know. But sometimes that'll kind of spark an idea, and I'll just kind of build a painting based on a certain color harmony. And I the to answer the second part of the question, I think it's well, I don't know if I feel like I just have if there's still more room to explore and create more paintings, you know, with that same motif or color, whatever it is. Um, if I don't know if I still feel that that excitement of trying something. I mean, sometimes you just get to a point where you feel like you've that whatever it is, you're just done with that particular type of painting and you move on to another idea. But
Yeah.
yeah, I guess yeah, if I'm not, maybe it could be that I'm just not completely satisfied with how I handled it the first time. So I'll try it again, maybe a little different,
Yeah.
and just keep doing that until I'm happy,
Yeah. Um,
or
when
until I
I read that,
give up.
give up. When I read that, I was thinking more in terms of, like there's a lot of your paintings are in the kind of, or they evoke a feeling of the old west, the pioneer kind of spirit, that kind of uh, atmosphere. I don't know if that's your intention, but that's sort of what I got from it. Like I think when this person images summers, that's just their name on Twitter, but when they're saying like certain themes, that's kind of what I
Oh
thought they
yeah.
were
Okay.
talking about.
Okay. Yeah. Sometimes. Yeah. Okay. That's almost the same. But yeah, I was thinking maybe like a color. Sometimes I'll just have a set of colors that I just will kind of keep working with and then move on to something else.
Yeah.
But I guess that I don't know. I mean, I guess I grew up in the Southwest, and when I'm kind of out in nature, that's where I spend if I just, if I go on little short painting excursions, I mean, that's kind of where I'm painting. So um, that's probably why it's a kind of a constant theme in my work.
Yeah. So it's more from the landscape. It's not like you're kind of going, yeah, there's a great market for these kind of paintings. I'm just going to, just sort of slot right in there. It's not like that. It's more just the place, the actual place you find yourself in and what inspires you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not really good at, um, yeah, doing it the other way around. It's, if I've got a good idea for something, whatever the subject is, I just, it works so much better if I just go and paint that, not have to
Yeah.
worry
Yeah.
about where you're going to show it.
Yeah.
I mean, luckily I haven't had any ideas for anything too bizarre,
Yeah.
nude clowns or something. I don't know, but
Yeah. That's already been done anyway, Jeremy. That's been done to death. Um, Derek Speaker in New York says, what, if anything, are some areas of improvement you'd like to include in your work? Are there any aspects that you feel are currently neglected, strengths, weaknesses, etc.? And then Jeremy Seth Tummins in Tennessee says, when you think of improvement in your work, what do you think of? And Paul Herman on Patreon, thanks for the tea, Paul, says, Jeremy, at your skill level, when you're making paintings, are there any areas that you're struggling with or would like to get better at?
yeah, I mean, I can't think of any one part of my painting technique that I feel like I've made it and I can just relax. It's always, um, I'm always trying to improve, um, whether it's my drawing, my color, my design, and trying to do something different or at least better. Each painting I do, I'm trying to make it a little better than the last one. Um, but I can't really think of any one area that I worry about more than the other. It's just it's across the board, I think.
It's just everything.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there are paintings sometimes where you think, oh yeah, it's like I kind of like that. That was a good um, brushwork turned out good in that one. But it's yeah, in general, there's just kind of always trying. I think that's part of what motivates me to keep spending so many hours on paintings. Is I mean, I feel like if I finally arrived, I wouldn't. I mean, it's a lot of work, it takes a lot of time, and it's it's not easy. So I think just hoping to get a little better, and the next one is part of the motivation.
Yeah. It's not like you're going to come out of the studio one day and go, okay, family, I figured it out. That's it now. What's the next thing I'm going to do with my life?
Yeah, hopefully I never get there.
Yeah. Benjamin Lester again says, when was the last time Mr. Lipking had a painting fail and how did he deal with that?
It's yeah, usually I'll kind of stick with the painting. It a lot of times it'll fail at some point, and I'll just kind of work through it, figure out what the problem is. On a large painting, if I've done a little study, hopefully I've solved all those problems. But it still happens where I run into an issue. It's usually not. Um, it's usually not that I get to a point where I realize that idea was shit. Anyways, I usually figure that out early on. But when I was younger, sometimes I'd just be so excited about starting. I'd start a painting and after spending days, realize it was just a bad idea to begin with. There's no fixing it. So luckily I don't do that anymore, but it's mostly just because I spend a lot of time before I even start the actual painting, either sketches or just kind of, you know, going through the steps mentally, or the color study. And usually through that, I can kind of weed out the bad ideas. But even then, sometimes I'll run into issues. Like I've got one painting in the studio now. I just kind of put off to the side and started another one, and I just keep it sitting there. Um, but I've already done like one painting in the meantime, and just trying to figure out what to do. I did a small study, and it looked great, but now that it's large, there's a little too much empty space, but haven't really figured out what to do with that space yet.
Yeah.
So I'm not ready to throw it out yet, but I'll come. Hopefully, I'll come up with a solution sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and it sounds like your preparatory work gives you the confidence to kind of know that this is just another problem. This isn't the painting hasn't failed. It's just a problem that has to be figured out, and I will figure it out.
Right. Yeah. Almost. Yeah. It usually doesn't get to the point where it's just a painting that needs to get thrown out or burned. Um, Maybe I'm optimistic, but I feel like there's always a solution for something.
Yeah. Paulina Kwintnicka in Lots and London. Sorry, I just slaughtered your surname there, Paulina. Can't wait to listen to this interview. Jeremy, most of your portraits that I've seen in brackets are women, usually young and pretty. It seems like you have a certain beauty type, and I'm often instantly able to tell that a painting was made by you because of the model. Is this something that you're aware of and use in your favor to strengthen what you see as your style, in inverted commas, your style of painting? Thanks.
I guess I mean, the last several years, I've painted my kids and my wife a lot, and so I've got three daughters and a wife. So there's four people that all kind of maybe look they're all young and pretty. So maybe that's part of it.
Right. So again, it's not a conscious
So
thing.
yeah,
It's just
uh, I guess so.
what's
Yeah,
in
I'm
front
not.
of
Yeah,
you.
not really thinking about just painting. Yeah, just yeah, painting either what's in front of me or um, yeah, because I haven't done too many men recently.
Yeah. Have you had much about like, are people say things to you about the male gaze, or where are you with that whole idea and not idea? It's a reality, but have you thought about it much, or
No, I mean, yeah, no, I've not recently, but yeah, have heard that. So, yeah, I'm not really sure. Not sure how to respond to that one because there are
yeah,
some paintings where the subject's not about that particular person. You're just telling a visual story, and there are paintings where it's really the main thing you're going for is some character of that particular person, where it's like a portrait, and
yeah, yeah. Well, I asked because I didn't know anything about it till I don't know about 4 or 5 years ago, and then as soon as I heard it, it was like, oh my god, it's everywhere. I just see it everywhere, and in paintings, in advertising, on the telly, everything is kind of framed through this lens of what is nice for men to look at. So yeah, I'm just wondering, that's why I'm asking you if you'd had a similar kind of experience.
yeah, probably not the same as yours.
All right, how was it for you then?
Um, well, I don't know. I mean, it's I'm not sure. I haven't really thought about it much recently.
Yeah, okay. It's funny. I asked Aaron the same thing, and he pretty much answered in the same way. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Um, okay. Bash Win in Japan says, "How would you compare your earlier work to your current work? What's improved? Has your style changed?" Thank you.
I spend more time on my paintings now. Used to do more work from life, and when you're working from life, you're kind of fighting, especially if you're painting outdoors. You're always battling the moving light and the weather conditions and all sorts of stuff. Um, so I definitely spend more time, and maybe my paintings are planned out a little more.
Has your style changed?
It's yeah, I mean, I've used, yeah, it's definitely changed. Just the technique of kind of painting a big painting in one or two sittings is it's a lot different than doing the same size painting where you're just working from memory and from photos and sketches. You don't have to kind of rush to cover the canvas as quickly. So I think I've got like fewer layers now
Yeah.
than my earlier work. I think I had more layers built up because I ended up repainting more. I used mostly titanium white for a long time, and once I discovered lead white, I just switched over to that. So I think they're little. I mean, the paint layer is maybe a little thicker than it was earlier. I painted a little
Yeah.
thinner because I'd used medium and walnut oil and um, mineral spirits just to thin down the paint a little more.
Yeah.
And I don't now. I just kind of use the paint straight from the tube.
Yeah. I don't know whether it's because you were painting more urban, you know, so less natural paintings in earlier on, but to me, your painting seemed to have warmed up a bit. That's one thing I've noticed, like in terms of like
Yeah,
when I
there's
look at your earlier
yeah,
paintings and more current paintings.
yeah. I think you're right about that.
Is that because they were more urban, or it's because your painting style has warmed up a bit more?
I'm not sure. Could be a combination of subject and just maybe different colors that I'm using as well.
Yeah. Okay, Jeffrey. Jeffrey, where did I get that from? Okay, Jeremy.
Yeah, who's Jeffrey?
Here's Jeffrey. Okay, Jeremy. I think you're gonna have to paint a city painting just especially for me, just to check that. Okay, can you
Okay.
put that on the roster?
Okay.
Someone in
I'll try that. Yeah.
the basement of somewhere would be great. um, David Vecht in Canada says, looking forward to this talk. Jeremy was one of the first artists to encourage me to continue to paint when I felt like quitting. I'm very grateful. Jeremy says, there. Did I get the name right? Well, anyway. Right, sorry. Jeremy, who do you continue to look to for inspiration for your own work today? And do you ever feel any need to change the way you paint?
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, your work looks great. Glad to hear that. Um, yeah, I mean, I just I feel like every time I scroll through Instagram, I find some new painter that I'd never seen before who does amazing stuff. Um, so I can't. I mean, I don't want to name any particular names, but I mean, this isn't really any like one or two in particular, but yeah, I feel like I'm always discovering new artists that do amazing stuff that kind of that definitely inspire me.
Yeah, yeah. And what about, do you ever feel the need to change the way that you paint?
I mean, not really. I mean, it definitely evolves a little bit over time on its own, just without having to try. Um, Maybe I'm always trying something different, whether it's a different, uh, I don't know, a little different subject or just painting the same thing I've painted several times, but painting it in a different way.
Yeah,
And I mean, sometimes part of that is different, maybe different technique or different colors. But I guess I don't feel, I never get to a point where I feel like I need to completely change something up just for the sake of changing it.
yeah. Um, Deborah Ridgely in Ohio says, Jeremy, what painting is still in your imagination that has yet to be painted?
Yeah, there's probably a few. Hmm, I'm I'm not sure that. Yeah, I know there's at least a couple. I can't think
Naked
of.
Clowns. I think you
Not
mentioned that
maybe.
before.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, so there isn't
Um,
one big thing that you've got in your head that like, oh, I'm eventually going to get to that one.
yeah, I mean, yeah, there's kind of a few. I mean, there's a lot of kind of ambiguous ideas that aren't completely resolved yet. So that probably more of those than anything. If it's if I've got like a solid idea, I'll usually paint it. Usually won't stay there too long before I start working on it. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's a couple landscapes that I like to do that don't have figures in them, um, and just feel like I'm almost ready to start, but haven't quite solved some of the problems yet.
Okay. And is that coming from like you've been to a certain place and thought, oh, I really would like to, do this place justice? Or is it more from an aesthetic kind of design point of view?
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, one in particular. There's a landscape painting. I did a smaller version, and I liked how it worked. If I always want to do something bigger, so it's kind of at the top of this peak, pretty high up in the White Mountains in California, and there's these kind of twisted bristlecone pines, what they're called, and just not sure how to. I mean, I feel like I could handle everything else in the painting, all the rocks and stuff, but just these kind of twisted pines, almost like a giant bonsai tree. I'm not sure
Mm.
exactly how I'd don't feel confident tackling that large yet.
Mm.
So, but I think I think the next step would just be to just do a study of one of those trees and try to work out how I would do that in a
Yeah,
bigger
yeah.
painting.
Yeah.
So there's probably other stuff similar to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Roma Sturas in Portugal says, if you could live with a single work of art, historic or contemporary, what would it be?
Oh, that's a hard one to just pick one. I'm not sure. Um, maybe a contemporary uh, or more recent painting. Maybe pick an Andrew Wyeth painting, like his work a
Okay.
lot. Um,
Any
if we
particular
go
one?
if we go back, yeah, I don't know. I would. I mean, I'd be happy to own any one of his paintings.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I like almost all of them, even the sketches. So, if we went back in time further, I'm not sure. Maybe I don't know. It's a tough one to pick.
All right.
Don't know. Be
We'll
hard to choose.
settle on the Andrew Wyeth.
There's too many. Yeah. Okay. So a Zorn painting, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Or or a Soroya.
Okay. They're all coming out now. Okay.
Yeah. Or a Repin. Take
Yeah.
one of those too if I could.
Um, Paul T11 again says, what are the elements that make up a good painting?
It's well, I think it's like it's a combination of design, uh, your color, your values, and um, the composition, and just not so much getting those right independently, but just making them all work together. Um, and I think one thing that a lot of artists, especially starting out, don't really appreciate is how important design and composition is. I think because a lot of times if you've done it right, you almost don't even notice it's there. I mean, that's not really the first thing you look at sometimes in a painting, and there just might be this great kind of natural organic movement throughout the composition that just sort of when you're standing there looking at the painting, you're just kind of intuitively following these lines that the artist is like deliberately you know placed to make you look there. But when it's done right, you almost don't even notice it.
Yeah.
Just if you're watching like a good a film with like good acting, you're not really paying attention to the acting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true.
You might think if you're uh, not paying attention, you might just think it's like good camera work or a pretty scene or a pretty actress.
Yeah. Alex May in the UK says, I'm a big fan of Jeremy's portrait of Leanne. If he could take up a temporary residency anywhere in the world, painting the landscape and people in it, where would he choose? I can answer that, Alex. It's Ireland, of course.
Yeah, I've never been there yet, but I want to go. It's on my list.
Well, great. You're
well,
very
thank you.
welcome.
Yeah. So, well, thank you for the compliment on that painting. I like that one too. Um, I don't know. I just like, I mean, probably just where I am right now. I mean, I mostly just paint friends and family. Yeah, occasionally I'll paint somebody else. It's usually a friend of a friend or an acquaintance.
Yeah. So there's no dream. You don't have any dream residency in the background there.
No, yeah, we're talking. Okay, yeah, if it's just like kind of a temporary holiday, I don't know. I'm not sure. There are a lot of places. Um, I don't know. I don't know if I can pick one. There's
Okay,
not one
we're just going to go with Ireland.
Not one that's
We're just
coming.
going to
Yeah,
go with Ireland. Yeah.
that's good.
Jason Kahn in California says, how much has the Australian artist Tim Patch influenced your brushwork?
I'm not sure if I know the artist Tim Patch.
Oh, okay. I thought this.
You know?
Number one, I thought because I thought Jason Kahn was, because he was in California. I thought he was a friend of yours, and that this was a hilarious in joke. Tim Patch is an Australian artist who paints with his genitals, and his artistic name is Picasso.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah. No, I know Picasso's work. I didn't know his real name. I guess he's been doxed since I've heard about him. So how much has he influenced my brushwork?
Yeah.
I mean, not a whole lot, but I do own a painting by him.
By Picasso?
Yeah, I do. I have an original Picasso.
How?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
It's a portrait of me, actually, surprisingly.
Yeah. How did that happen?
Telling the truth. I've had it. I mean, kind of a funny story. So I've, maybe 10 years, 15, I don't know, a long time ago. He kind of like went viral in this like circle of artists, these videos of him painting, with his junk. So two good friends of mine, Logan Ajej and Glenn Dean, really good painters. If you don't know them, look them up. Two of my longtime art friends decided for my birthday, they'd commission this artist, be a surprise. They'd commission this artist to paint a portrait of me. So they just found a random picture on like Facebook or MySpace or whatever it was, and sent it to the guy. And so he sends you, you get the original painting, but you also get a DVD of the whole process.
Wow. They must really not like
interesting.
You that much.
Yeah. So I was teaching a class at the time. I remember it was at an old studio. I was teaching like a figure drawing class, and they came in like at the end of the class, maybe the last half hour, and just kind of sitting in the back giggling. And they had something with them. It was all wrapped up, and I had no idea what it was. Complete surprise and shock. An original Picasso.
Did they play the DVD for the class?
There were, not for the whole class, but I think a few people had stayed and just to watch it. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Thank you for that mental image, which I probably will never be able to get out of my mind now.
Yeah. Funny question though.
It is, yeah. But yeah, I was again, I didn't know the name, so I had to look it up. And now, of course, I know way more than I want to about Picasso and how it works and all that kind of thing. What's the last piece of art you bought?
I have a Josh Elliott landscape. It's a landscape painter from Montana.
That was the last one.
Yeah, I wish if I was in the house I could show it to you, but can't see it now.
Okay.
And
so you're on a desert island. There's nobody else there or coming. You have all your needs are met, meaning your shelter's taken care of and your food is taken care of, and there are art materials there. Would you paint knowing that no one was ever going to see your work?
Yeah, just because I don't know why. Because it's something. I mean, I've already been doing it so long. I just do it every day. It's just a habit.
Yeah.
So can't imagine having all the stuff there and not touching it.
Yeah. Okay.
I've
If there's one
still got
under,
work to do. Yeah.
yeah. If there was one underlying theme to all your work, what do you think it would be?
I mean, enjoy painting the people that I paint and enjoy painting the landscape that they're usually in. And, I also just enjoy that landscape on its own without putting a figure in it. So, I'm not sure, but it's usually, I've painted a lot of different places, but it's usually just the people in the landscape that I know well, that's kind of close to here.
Yeah. Do you go out into it, into the nature, without any agenda to do with painting? Like, do you enjoy hiking through it and just spending time in it regardless?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So I'll go out and hike, and sometimes I'll take the bike out, or the dirt bike, just ride in the hills. I mean,
Yeah.
we've got some animals too, and kind of a big property. So there's always like some work to do, like fixing a fence or stuff like that. So
Yeah. How
um,
many acres are you on?
it's a little over 5.
Okay. Yeah.
So but it's most of it's not fenced in. So once you go back there, it kind of feels like, and it backs to
Yeah. Yeah.
public land and there's some private land. So you feel like you have like 100 acres.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's not a
but
competition,
yeah.
but I'm on 55 acres.
Oh wow. Yeah. Yeah. You won that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I
I
heard
don't, I don't own
you
them.
have some animals though too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. There's, again, as I say, I don't own it, but, the house that we're in is, yeah, there's like about 40 sheep and 3
Wow.
donkeys. And then we've got
Oh yeah.
2 dogs and 2 cats as well. So
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Oh
Yeah. Yeah.
nice. Yeah. I've got 2 sheep.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't own the sheep. They're
Mhm.
just here, but
Yeah.
yeah. It's coming up to lambing here. I don't know if it is there.
Yeah. Not mine though. But
No. Ian Goldsmith in the UK says, do you think American portraiture is too heavily influenced by neoclassicism and early 20th century European art like Sargent?
um, it, it- American portraiture in general, I'm not sure, right? But I mean, I kind of look at a broad range of styles, and I guess it's mostly what I'm seeing through my Instagram feed. So I, I don't see that, but maybe it is. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
not sure. I mean, I see a
I
pretty diverse range of styles when I just kind of scroll through my Instagram,
yeah.
it's mostly artists that I follow.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the thing about social media. It becomes a little echo chamber and you sort of see the things you like
Mm,
to see. I
yeah.
kind of know what he's talking about compared to, say, English and maybe European portraiture. It doesn't, you don't see it as much, that kind of influence, this sort of Sargent kind of look.
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't think you could make a sweeping statement about it. Well, you could, but it wouldn't be accurate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sonia Caldwell says, are there any artists who have studied with you that you feel are doing exciting work as a result of your influence?
Um, yeah, I've had artists who just taken a workshop, like just a single workshop, and I don't know if they learned anything. Hopefully, they learned a little bit. And I just saw a painting not too long ago that I thought was really cool by Suchitra Bhosle. I don't know if you know her work. And
No.
like yeah, a long time ago, she was like an apprentice, and even lived with us for a little while. But there's a lot. I can't a lot of people, but yeah, it's one particular one just because I came across a painting of hers that looked
I
good.
imagine that's a lovely feeling, when you see the people that You saw them when they were figuring it all out, and now you're seeing them doing fantastic work.
Yeah,
Yeah, I imagine that's very
yeah,
satisfying.
definitely.
Um, Tanja Gant in Texas says, "Do you have any workshops planned in Texas? Thanks, and thank you, John. I'm a big fan of you both." That's great, Tanja. Thank you.
Thanks. Not right now. There was one that was planned right before the pandemic that got canceled, so I haven't rescheduled that. Um, so yeah, nothing right now at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. Are you back into teaching again now? It's like has your uh, teaching schedule, your painting schedule, the kids are back at school, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
Are you back into the
yeah,
kind of swing of things now?
yeah. I mean, I haven't done a lot of regular teaching. I'll usually do a couple workshops a year. So I did
Yeah.
do one. Didn't yeah, I hadn't done any workshops for about 2 or 3 years, even longer actually. But I did do one in September, and I've got another one coming up next month. It's going to be here, actually, right behind me in the on the property. Um, and that one's going to be. I mean, that one's going to be a little different. I just for fun, I thought I'd focus on composition with the figure outdoors, um, instead of just a generic outdoor painting workshop.
Yeah.
So and then yeah, actually I'll be doing three this year. I've already done one. No, that was last year. So two this year. That outdoor figure one here at my property, and then
Yeah.
up in the Sierras, a landscape painting workshop. So and that's always I always enjoyed that. I mean, that one's a lot of fun. I just love painting up there and just landscape. Sometimes we'll paint a figure. Sometimes we'll talk somebody in modeling for us, but it's mostly landscape.
And did you get into any of the Zoom teaching during the lockdowns?
No, I did. Oh, I did. Yeah, I did one, just private, one time, little class. But so the last workshop I did, we did Zoom. I mean,
Okay.
it was an in person workshop, but we also had a Zoom option too. And
Okay.
so I had yeah, Natalia help me out with that because she'd done it before, and she kind of was the Zoom monitor just so I could just focus on the painting, the demo.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Yeah.
So and that, yeah, that was pretty fun.
And those two workshops, are there still places in those if people are listening and they want to come along?
Oh, I'm not sure. Well, I know the one here is full, but I'm doing well. There's a Zoom option for that one too. So yeah,
Okay.
so there's still room in the Zoom, not the in person. And the Sierra one, there might be one space left, but I'm not sure
Okay.
if.
You're hardly doing Zoom for the Sierra one, are you?
Yeah, I just haven't figured out how to. I think that'll just be too difficult because a lot of places there's just no. A lot of the places I like to go, there's not even cell service. So, but I'm gonna do. We're gonna record it though, and then yeah, so we'll have it available to watch to buy like streaming.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Um, Images Sombres again on Twitter says, "I'd love to hear your impressions on the NFT space and how you see your own work there, and how and if it changed or if it evolved."
Um, so I just sort of yeah, I mean, I did my first NFT about a year ago, and that was kind of when a lot of artists just started to kind of even think about that. Um, and but I didn't do a whole lot for the rest of the year. I just wasn't really sure how to approach it or even how to market those. But so think it's. I mean, I don't know if it's still not really any clear roadmap of how to do that because it's so new. But so I did another one just a few weeks ago. I did a drop with an addition of 25 on object, and so I had a lot of artists kind of just help help me out starting on that platform. Um, so if it's I'm not sure if it's you know hasn't really changed how I do my paintings at all. If that, I think that was part of the question.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it will. I mean, it's still too early to know, but yeah, so far I'm not really sure it has changed at all.
Yeah. So I think initially you were on um, OpenSea, was it for that first?
The first one was on Foundation.
Oh, Foundation. Okay, so that would have been
Yeah,
Ethereum,
yeah, yeah.
and then this latest one being on Object, it's
It's
Tezos, which is
Tezos. Yeah, yeah. You're like an
yeah.
NFT pro already.
Well,
Probably
I'm learning.
know more than me. Yeah,
I'm learning.
yeah,
So how did it go? Like I think you sold out very fast, from what I can remember.
yeah. No, yeah. It went better than I expected. I didn't really know what to expect, but so yeah, I had an addition of 25, and we opened it up to offers. So the top three offers got a print, a signed numbered print of that painting,
Yeah,
and then we would take the top 25 offers would get the NFT. And so I had some people like a guy named Lawrence who kind of helped me out, like, and hosted a drop party and on his Twitter space,
yeah,
and Francine Craig kind of helped me
Craig. Yeah,
just kind of encouraged me to get started on that one. And a lot of artists, Valentine, uh, Tiffany Cole, and Henrik kind of were all on there,
yeah,
and it just looked like I don't know, fun, just something different, kind of a newer. It's yeah, just kind of it was kind of a cool. There's some cool artwork on there too, so um, that's why I decided to do one on that
yeah,
blockchain.
yeah, yeah. Did you? I think Lawrence. I've forgotten his surname. Lawrence Fuller, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. His. Did you reach out to him, or did he get in touch with you?
Well, I was already in a Discord that he was in,
Okay.
and so I just started messaging on there, and he offered to help me out with that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because it's a whole other world, and it's a whole other way of marketing you. It's a whole other
Yeah, it's
thing.
not. Yeah, it's a completely different thing than Instagram and physical paintings.
Yeah,
So whatever, yeah,
and
whatever level you're at there, you're just kind of starting from the beginning with everyone else over on Twitter.
yeah, yeah, and it's a whole different collector base as well,
Yeah,
and they
yeah,
speak a different language.
yeah.
It's
I have,
funny.
I have mentioned NFTs on Instagram a couple times, and there's not too many people are interested, or a lot. Get the question, what is an NFT? Or I think a lot of people don't understand why anybody would want to collect an NFT.
Yeah, yeah,
People
yeah,
collect old stamps though, so it's not too big of a too big of a stretch.
yeah, yeah.
I mean,
That's
just think
right.
about
People collect.
the bazaar. People collect everything. It's not too big of a stretch to collect a digital work.
Yeah, it's funny the way it kind of worked out, because like you and I actually connected on Twitter, and I wouldn't have been back on Twitter, and maybe you wouldn't have been either, only for
Mhm.
the NFT thing.
Right.
And
Yeah.
um, because your Instagram had gone down, which I didn't even know at the time when we were chatting on Twitter. It's funny the way things move.
Yeah. Well, I think it just went down like right after that. So when we first connected, it was still working.
Oh, okay. Wow. So it's such a strange thing. It's just such a
Yeah.
strange thing. Jeremy Seth Timmons in Tennessee again says, why did you mint NFTs? And do you own any NFTs? And how are your galleries included in the transactions?
Don't have any connection with the galleries and my NFTs. And I do own some, not as many as others. I think I maybe own a couple dozen. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
I was
something
talking
like that.
I was talking to another
It's
artist, and they were saying it kind of expected in that culture that you buy them as well. Like you have to be in it kind of.
Yeah, most of them. Yeah, I haven't seen anybody who's not any artists who are not collecting them. But even before I dropped them, I started buying some. just for fun, some art that I liked, and yeah, it's fun. You can just from your phone almost anywhere buy art.
Yeah. Well, I think that's one of the nice things about Tezos is that the price of entry is a lot lower, and because the gas fees are much lower as well, it's like
Oh
collecting
yeah,
NFTs is not such a big
oh
deal
yeah,
as on OpenSea or something like that.
yeah. No, even on if you wanted to bid on something on Foundation, it could cost you like $80 or something.
Yeah, yeah, just a bit.
Yeah, you might not even get it,
Yeah,
or you might have to bid 5 more times.
yeah, and Foundation are laughing all the way to the bank.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Alex Kelly in the UK says, "Love Jeremy's work. Could you ask Jeremy what he thinks about the future of traditional painting in terms of NFTs? Does he see them as just an additional revenue stream for artists similar to prints, or is it something more? And what's his take on the controversy surrounding their environmental impact?"
I'm not sure actually what the you know how it will impact artists. I think eventually we'll all be selling NFTs. I don't think it will um, take away the market for real paintings. Um, at least not anytime soon. It seems to be more like almost like a yeah, it's a little different than prints, but maybe more like the print market in that it's usually different. With prints, usually not the same people that are buying prints that are buying the original paintings. And I think the people who are buying NFTs are, I know of a couple, but most of them are people who haven't, you know, don't collect artwork, physical artwork. What was it? What was the second part? Oh, the environmental
Um,
impact.
yeah,
I don't know much about Ethereum. I mean, it does take a lot of um, I suppose it has a huge carbon footprint just for a single transaction. I mean, that's not the case on Tezos. It uses very little energy to mint or do any transaction on that blockchain. Um, but I don't know enough to talk about that. Um,
yeah.
how big of carbon footprint it is on Ethereum compared to doing a painting. I'm sure it's not a small um, amount of energy used to create a painting too.
You mean on the blockchain?
Well, no, I mean just like a physical painting. I don't know if has anybody calculated that. Yeah, it'd
How
be
much the
interesting.
light
It'd be
bulb? Yeah, the
interesting.
lighting. Yeah, that's
Not just
right.
that, but we get the pigments from our paints come from exotic places and have to be shipped around the world, and
Yeah,
the linen comes from it's to be farmed and um, yeah, use a lot of electricity just in light,
yeah. That's a very
and
good
then
point.
I ship a painting. I've got to build a big crate with plywood and goes on a plane somewhere and might have to come back if it doesn't sell.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm not sure, but I don't think it's an issue with Tezos.
No, and
And I
Ethereum
think
are switching over as well. Like they are, I think it's called Ethereum 2 or something like that. It's they're shifting it. They're changing the fundamental mechanics of how the blockchain, how the piece is minted onto the blockchain. So
mhm,
it's uses a lot less energy. So that will become. But I think the thing with NFTs is
yeah,
like when someone like in it's talking about NFTs is a little bit like talking about social media 10 years ago. You
yeah,
know, we just like in the future, everything will be an NFT. You know, your
hmm,
airline ticket, your everything you buy will probably be an NFT because it's
hmm,
so much more efficient and it's so much better for the person buying the thing. You know, like
yeah,
say your workshops down the track, your workshops will probably be an NFT as well. Or if somebody buys a recorded workshop, that'll probably be an NFT because then they can
hmm,
resell it. You know, they don't, their
right,
money is not lost. They can resell it, and you'll get a little bit of that from the royalties of that sale. and it's
Right.
just good for people, because then they can, they
Yeah.
buy this thing, but then when they've got everything they need out of it, they can on-sell it to somebody else. And
Right.
most
Yeah,
things will
that's the
be
great.
NFTs.
Yeah, that's a great thing about it. You can have some token gated website, which actually I do have something on OpenSea. I forgot to mention it, but it's I just had this idea to do something called the Painters Club, and it's actually an NFT that you buy on
Yeah.
Ethereum blockchain. And so I posted about it just right before my Instagram went away. I haven't really mentioned it much, but um, yeah, with if you get that, it's kind of it's not necessarily the art that you're buying. It's you're just kind of you're able to unlock a dedicated web page where I have like my streaming workshop videos, and you can sign up for workshops like earlier um, than people who aren't members.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, like Patreon, that whole Patreon
Yeah.
model will shift, So in time, I think that it will become way more than just, oh, it's similar to print. It's just another thing. It will be a way of
Yeah.
engaging with the people who are into your
Hmm.
work in a way
Yeah.
that we can't even kind of really get our head around yet.
Yeah.
like we
Yeah.
wouldn't have been able to get our head around what social media was 10 years ago,
Yeah.
and now it's
Yeah.
just like another thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that wasn't even that long ago, at least for me. When people started, I guess kids, they've grown up with it, but seems like 5 minutes ago that
Yeah,
we all
yeah,
got on social media.
yeah. Leslie Smith on Instagram says, "Thank you, John, for the opportunities you give us to take a journey through the minds of such esteemed artists." We've been going through your mind, Jeremy. Jeremy, your talent is outstanding. When you start painting, how much of its creation is about what you're hoping will sell? How much is about painting what moves you or tells a story, or maybe represents a legacy, maybe represents your legacy to the art world? And do these concepts ever conflict or cause concern?
Yeah, I'm not good at painting something that if I had to paint something, I wouldn't be a good commercial artist. I don't think. I just um, if I've got a good idea for something and I'm painting something else, there's almost no way I'm gonna be successful with that other thing because I'm just not able to stop thinking about that other painting that I want to do. So I guess I'm pretty impulsive in that sense, where just if I get an idea for a painting, I'm going to paint it no matter what.
Yeah.
And I've survived so far doing that. So
So far, so good.
yeah.
Um, Ivan Loganov in St. Petersburg says, "You have your own path as an artist. What are the reasons to be sure that you are on the right path? What signs do you see around? What do you pay attention to?"
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. Yeah, he's a great artist, so he might
Mm.
know a better answer than me. Um, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not as. I guess I'm not as smart as him. I don't even. I haven't really thought about it. I, I just want to. I just paint. If I get an idea, I just paint it. Um, I think if I, I mean if you're satisfied with it, I think that's the most important thing. I mean, you shouldn't um, do it to impress somebody else or a gallery or a market. Um, if you can do that, I'm jealous. That's probably be rich. You could, and I have met some artists who are good at that. Painting, you have like a really specific niche, and keep doing that. I'm not good at that though.
All right. Samuel Alvarez in Spain says, "Over time, I've built up a portfolio of work, but it's really difficult to become known as an artist. So, how do you become successful in painting? Do I keep working at it and hope a gallery finds me, or do I need to be much more forward in the matter?
Yeah, I would just rely on a gallery discovering you. It could happen just because the wide reach of social media and stuff like that. But yeah, probably not a good idea just to rely on somebody finding you. So you definitely have to try to get your art somewhere where somebody's going to see it. Maybe maybe if that might mean just finding the gallery where your work would fit the best and approaching them. And if they say no, just approach them again.
Do you think competitions are a good way of getting eyeballs on your work?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, definitely.
Um, Parsons People on Instagram says, for someone like myself who is still quite green, do you have any advice on how to mentally get past all the unsold work in inverted commas that starts to pile up?
So wait, what's the question? How to get rid of the unsold work,
Well,
or
probably,
get
yeah, indirectly. Do you have any advice on how to mentally get past all the unsold work that starts to pile
mentally?
up?
Um, yeah, maybe I don't know. Maybe put it in the attic where you can't see it every day. I don't know. Um, uh, yeah, or maybe give it away. I don't know. Yeah, maybe you don't want to give it away because then nobody's going to want to buy them later. Not sure. I don't know about that. I've got
Did you have that experience yourself, like when you were starting out, or how did the selling, how did that begin
yeah,
for you? You know, to transition from learning and then
yeah,
starting to sell.
yeah. I mean, I did a lot of in my student days. I did a lot of painted a lot, so I had just lots of paintings on panels. But I would paint over them after a certain point, just because I was painting so much. I would just put like gesso or white paint over it and just reuse them. But eventually, I started just using fresh canvas. I think somebody told me to stop painting over your old paintings and use. Somebody told me to use good materials. So that's so I think for a while, yeah, it was had a lot of paintings that were building up, but I can't remember what I did with those. I don't have them anymore. I think I threw some away.
And how did the selling bit start for you?
It started when I think when I was still like kind of a student teacher at the time. I was selling some work every once in a while, either like a demo, or I'd get commissioned to do a portrait or a figure or something, commissioned to do a painting.
Yeah,
And then I wasn't really actively trying trying to sell my work. It just every once in a while I would sell one. Not
yeah.
wasn't regular. But then after a certain point, I've had to I don't know. I think I quit my last like regular job, or just didn't want to just wanted to spend more time painting. So at some point I figured I have to start making some money here doing this. And so finally approached a gallery, and the first one didn't work out. They didn't even want to look at my work. So I just
Right.
went next door, and that artist did. I mean that art dealer did. Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Um, Igor Kristic in Serbia says, hi, John, and thank you for this. You're welcome, Igor. Hi, Jeremy. I have two questions. Did you find your galleries or did they find you? And what do you recommend for some new artist at the stage that I am at?
Yeah. Well, the first couple galleries I showed with, um, I went to them, so I found them. But pretty soon after that, I started showing with Arcadia Gallery, and so he contacted me. He saw my work in a magazine, and so yeah, that's yeah. So both, but yeah, the first gallery, I just found my own way to get into it.
How did you end up in the magazine?
It was the so yeah one of the first galleries I did had a solo show at. They did some advertising, and I think I got maybe a little blurb or a little write up in an art magazine. And so I
And then
think
that's
that's
what.
how Arcadia Gallery saw it, or it could have been another artist that told them to look at my work. I can't
Right.
remember,
Yeah, yeah.
but they had
Amy
just opened
Floyd.
up. Yeah,
Arcadia just opened up.
yeah. So I started showing them with them right. I think within the first year they opened up.
Right. That would have been that was in New York. They started in New York, didn't they?
Yeah,
Yeah,
2001, I think.
yeah, right. Amy Floyd in Arizona says, "How important is it to have a body of work that's cohesive? I can always spot your work from almost anywhere. Do you think this helps you improve your technique by building on it, or have you ever thought to do a big pivot in your work? I adore your art and love your talent."
Thanks. I don't. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, haven't had any desire to do any big pivot, but every once in a while I just try something different, and I'm not. Uh, um, yeah, I don't know. Not sure if I'll put it out. Yeah, I don't know. I guess have tried some different things, but no. Maybe somebody looking at them might not really. It might not seem like a big pivot to them. It might look like the same style. And what was the other part of the question?
Having a cohesive
Oh,
body of
yeah.
work, does it help you improve
Yeah,
your technique?
I don't know if it helps you improve your technique. I don't know. I mean, maybe might help with other things like having a making it easier for a gallery to market you, but I'm not sure if it would help with technique.
Yeah. What's your experience of the art business been? You know, some artists I talk to have lovely stories, and then other artists have harder stories. How have you got on with galleries? And
Yeah, I've always had like good experiences with the galleries I've worked with. I've never had. I mean, I've heard a lot of horror stories, and I've met some people where there's a lot of red flags, and but never worked with them. So yeah, I mean, I've been pretty lucky. It's everybody I've worked with has been pretty good.
great.
No bad experiences, but I have heard a lot. Yeah,
What sort of
heard
price range
lots
are you
of.
paying? Sorry?
Uh, I have heard lots of horror stories though.
Yeah, yeah. What sort of price range are your paintings selling for these days?
I guess like I don't know, from a couple $1,000s to $100,000.
That's based on size, is it?
Yeah.
Nice. And from, I meant to ask you, what did your this recent NFT drop? How did that go for you? Like what? Um, yeah, how did it go financially? Like that's something that people who are interested in NFTs they want to know. Is it worth the trouble?
Yeah, it was pretty good. I mean, I've met so many artists who like they've almost like just quit selling paintings in galleries. I mean, maybe not a lot. I don't want everybody to quit their day job and go into NFTs, um, but yeah, I've met some artists who never sold a painting in a gallery, couldn't even get in a gallery, and now they're making pretty good money with their NFTs.
Yeah.
So it went pretty. I mean, so the first, yeah, so I minted 3 on Ethereum, and so the first one I sold, it was sold for 5 Ethereum, which is kind of a lot. I was like, well, it's pretty easy. So I'll do another one. The second one just didn't sell for as much. The next two,
Yeah.
and then so this one on
How much
oh,
was
and
Ethereum back then?
it
Because
was
that's a year ago.
I forget, but it was probably around $10,000 for 5. That's
Two, yeah, because
it's
it's
yeah
about three now, isn't it? It's about 3,000 for
yeah,
one Ethereum now, roughly.
yeah. So whatever it's a total about $5 or $10,000 for that one.
Yeah.
Um, and then so on the Tezos, so I sold an addition of 25, and they the offers that I accepted ranged from I think like 65 to 100 and something, and so it was maybe about, I mean, total is about $6,000, a little over.
Okay, so that would be what's 25 into 6,000? It's a couple $100, $300, $400 a what would, if you were selling prints, it'd be like if you sell them for like $300 or $400 each. Is that right? My math's right there.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Paul Levine again says, do you have a big art dream you'd like to achieve before you die? Kind of co-opted a question I always ask.
Oh, big art dream. No, I don't have a big, I mean, I feel like I'm just trying to do, just do one painting that's a little better than the last.
Yeah. Lovely. That's a very achievable dream.
Yeah. I'm not always successful, but sometimes I am.
Yeah. Well, compared to, I want to, what's the most outlandish one I've heard? Can't remember, but some people have very big dreams, which are which are much harder to achieve.
Yeah.
Than I want my current painting to be better than the last one. I mean, that's brilliant. Okay, this is my last question. I ask this to everyone who comes on the podcast. If there's one thing you could pass on to future generations, what would it be?
Yeah, I should have prepared. If you asked that to everybody, I should have thought of something clever to say and prepared. But yeah, so we're talking about art or just anything in general?
No, anything, just generally.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think it's yeah. I mean, if don't if there's something that you really want to do, I mean, just do it with passion and go all the way. I mean, it's like if you, like, for example, somebody who wanted to be an artist, I think you need to be like fully committed.
Yeah. Very good.
You can be careful with
be careful with what?
Well, like a backup plan. I mean, I never really had a backup plan to becoming an artist. It might not be smart or rational, but
yeah, there's it's two schools of thought on that, isn't there? I'm kind of the go all in school, but then there are people who are like, no, it's good to have a fallback, But then I always think if you have a fallback, you're not fully committed.
Yeah.
I was laughing because I regularly post this meme. I think it's a meme. Well, it's not a meme. It's just a bit of writing, and it's basically like, don't half-ass anything. If you're gonna do something, use your whole ass, which I think is great.
Yeah, that's good. I'll have to copy that one from you.
Something to live by.
Yeah.
Speaking of Instagram, what is your Instagram now that it's back, shiny and new and lovely? It's just your surname, isn't it? Just at Lipking.
Yeah, just Lipking.
And I think it's the same for Twitter, isn't it? Because we're all going to be on Twitter now.
Yeah.
And then what's your website? It's just your name, isn't it? .com?
Same thing, lipking.com.
Oh, it's lipking.com. Okay, brilliant. Okay, well, look, it's been lovely chatting with you. I really like your paintings. People who regularly listen to this podcast will know that you're sort of up there with, like, when I first realized that people could paint like this, that it wasn't, museum kind of, or people from the Renaissance. The first artist was an artist, Francis O'Connor here, or Francis O'Toole. God, do you think I'd remember his name? Francis O'Toole here in Ireland. When I saw his paintings, I felt physically ill. They were so good, and I was like, my God, I didn't think people could still paint like that. And then you would have been the next one. That I didn't feel physically ill. I was kind of used to that people could paint like that. But in terms of inspiration for, like, what I really like about your paintings is how you deal with light. But there is, I mean, we haven't sort of talked about spirituality or anything like that, but that's kind of my thing. But there is a spiritual quality to your paintings. Like, I don't know how you do it. I'm not even sure if you know how you do it, but there's something profound in your paintings for me. There's like there's a quality of gentleness, tenderness, beauty, and there's a sublime kind of quality to them. And it really doesn't matter what the subject is, like whether it's your family or not. It's not just like limited to your family. That I've found, really inspiring all this time. Like do you still have your app? Because I got your app when you had an app.
Yeah. I don't think it works anymore unless you have an older phone.
Yeah, I don't have it anymore. I've changed phones, but like I was that impressed and I was that moved by your paintings. So yeah, they're so inspiring. They really are, So
thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. Thank you for doing them. So it's nice to finally be able to chat with you and kind of hear what's going on. You strike me as a natural, and there's a thing in teaching, you probably know this, as the worst person to learn from is a natural, because they have a lot of trouble knowing why they do what they do. Like if you're going to learn to fly a plane, don't learn from a natural pilot. Learn from someone who's struggled, who had trouble with everything. And then because they know, they've had to deconstruct it. And just listening to you, a lot of you can tell like that a lot of this happens for you in a very kind of unconscious flow, intuitive kind of way, which is lovely.
Yeah.
It's lovely
except you won't die if you learn from me like you would with a natural pilot. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. So yeah, I keep in touch with everybody. So I'm sure we'll keep in touch for Zoom tea or whatever. But yeah, we'll say goodbye for now.
Yeah, it's good talking to you, John. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome.
Goodbye.
I've never felt this good in my entire life. Make me some spaghetti.
Actually, I'd prefer a cup of tea. A cup of tea would be lovely. So yeah, just a little reminder, mainly because every second or third person who becomes a patron has got in touch with me and said, you know what, I've been listening to your podcast for ages, and I didn't become a patron, not because I don't have the money, not because I don't think it's great, I just didn't get around to it. So this is a little friendly reminder that if you'd like to be a patron, you'd like to buy me a cup of tea, go to patreon.com/John Dalton, gently does it, all one word, or follow the link in the show notes to become a patron. I would really appreciate it if you could do that, particularly if you've been meaning to and you just haven't got around to it. It would be great. It would mean a lot to me. All right. Thank you. Bye.
We are the Argyle Pimps. So buy us a drink. We're better than you thought, but not as good as we think. We are the Argyle Pimps. So buy us a drink. Come on, buy us a drink. Come on, buy us a drink. We are the Argyle Pimps. So buy us a drink. We're better than you thought, but not as good as we think. We are the Argyle